I've found is you can go because my niche is building 16 beds, 16 bedroom mansions. And I think that I can provide the best care with that because I can have enough income that comes in to pay great staff and have everything that my essentially grandmas and grandpas need. So, um,
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast. Man, is have an awesome opportunity to bring somebody on to kind of help you out with your aging parent. You ever wonder where to send them? You don't have the facilities to kind of support them, and you just need a place to go. This is pretty much you getting the ins and outs of how to make this work in your favor. And I just can't hold this guy back enough. He's been doing this for so long, has well over, actually starting an awesome opportunity down in Texas, and I can't wait to see how he's doing it in so many other places. So welcome to the show, Brett. How you been?
good, good. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be with you here today.
Yeah, so, you know, you have assisted living. What in the world is assisted living? We hear about it, but a lot of us don't research it until we have to. So
Sure.
what is that?
So my business and my kind of space in this is assisted living and memory care. And actually, we focus more on the memory care side, but they can kind of go together. And so, there's kind of steps as you have an aging parent or you're looking for yourself, right? You have the independent living, kind of the apartment style. And a lot of times those have the cafeteria on the bottom floor and you go do all of that. And there's not a lot of needs that happen there. And then you may graduate from there into assisted living, and assisted living, there's kind of a very wide spectrum here, right? There's like beginning assisted living where, you're ambulatory and you do all your things. You might just need a little bit help with medications and things like that. And then there's like more the backside of assisted living and end of life assisted living as you're getting to incontinence and two-person transfer and excessive amounts of medications that you need to be managed. And then that also kind of ties in with, memory care. And we see a lot of people earlier and earlier in life, unfortunately, developing dementia or Alzheimer's, even earlier. And so that's a big need in our marketplace. And that's kind of a lot of what our focus is. So we take care of people all the way through end of life, but specifically a lot of people with memory care.
Yeah, so well, why specifically assisted living? Because I'm here thinking about like you can do anything in the world that you ever wanted to do. What made you make that shift to kind of focus on assisted living?
So I started out in real estate. I love building things. And so I was doing a lot of real estate deals and fix and flip and rentals and those kind of things. And it ended up being that I wanted to find something that I could build to take care of my own grandma.
There you
And
go.
she was in her late 90s, starting to have early Alzheimer's. And we're like, all right, my wife and I were like, well, we're looking for something new, right? We actually were living in California, wanted to move somewhere different in the country. So we ended up saying, hey, you know what? Let's go start this business in Texas. And it ended up being really a place that we built for my grandma, who by the time she moved in was 100 years old, and she was with us for 4 years. We call them assisted living mansions, and they're just very large, luxurious, 10,000 square feet, 16 private rooms. We have a chef and a salon and a garden room and all these beautiful things. And it's a home, right? It's not a big facility. It's a real home, but we're able to have all of the care that we'd want, for people with memory care and have the more upscale, services and end of life services that you need. And so it was kind of just more of a personal thing for me. I wanted something for my own family, and I saw there's a big problem in the market, right? Like I
Yeah.
found nothing great for my own family as I was looking for her. She actually went into a, larger 64 bed assisted living and just declined instantly. And then after we finished construction and moved her in, she literally like just came back to life. And I think there's a lot to that. My wife and I are people of faith, and we want to do something that made a difference and take care of our own family, and that's kind of how we jumped into this.
Yeah, because it seems like that you have like just your passion into making things right, not just for you, but not to be completely selfish. You know what? Bringing people along for that journey. Is that something that has been instilled with you from your parents? It's just kind of like, you know what? They took care of me. Let's take care of them type deal.
My family's always been very, very supportive of me, and I think it has just been something that I felt really compelled to do. We had the and again, it wasn't I had the business skills to be able to do this kind of stuff, to build things and to raise money. I just knew that I needed to hire and partner with somebody who can show me the medical side of this. I had no idea about that, right? So we got a great team together. We built our first one in 2019, and I felt like I had almost a responsibility to take care of your own family, but I had the business tools and skills to be able to go and figure it out.
Okay, because most of us do it for selfish reasons. Like I started this podcast because my mom was, for some reason, it just seemed like she was just making like a lot of bad financial choices.
Mm.
But as I've gotten older and doing this, it's kind of like now realizing that she is doing the best she can with the things that she has and understanding, like giving grace to her, not blaming her. But now that I'm a little older, kind of like this is my give back. And so this is the reason why I do what I do. Cause she always asks like, who did you talk to? How did you find this person?
Yeah, that's cool. I
We're
like
here for
that.
you. So, and I appreciate that you still giving back and it's your passion to kind of make sure that the next person's loved one is actually having this opportunity. So I just want to say thank you and give you a grace and flowers for that.
I appreciate
So
it. Thanks so much.
yeah. So we talk about the assisted living, why you got into it, but now it comes to the how. Because a lot of times people is like, okay, well, I'm listening to this, I think I want to do something like that for my grandparent or even my mom or dad. What would be like the first, I say, three steps that somebody can do to kind of start either a shifting their mindset and then start making that capital?
And specifically, do you mean this question to be how the first three steps for people to start their own assisted living?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Well, it really goes back. Every single state is different on this, and every single state requires you to have a license. So it really goes back to I think these two things kind of go together. What is your license type? And then what is the zoning requirements? That's not on a state level, that would be on a city level that I can do to be able to do this. A lot of times you see in the marketplace really, really big or really small, meaning you have the 60 or 100 bed that are the big facilities that big corporate are doing. And, those are all commercially zoned and they'll get the licensure with the state. And then you have the small mom and pop ones that it might be a house conversion and that might be 6 or 8 or 10 beds. And so the zoning on that, the small one versus the large one, are drastically different, right? So it may be residential zoning on the small one, but and here's what I have found is you can go, because my niche is building 16 beds, 16 bedroom mansions. And I think
Nice.
that I can provide the best care with that because I can have enough income that comes in to pay great staff and have everything that my essentially grandmas and grandpas need. So it goes back to finding the right license type and then finding the right zoning type, because my model is not let me go into a neighborhood and pick a house out and convert the garage and have residential zoning. The city's not going to let me do a business in residential zoning, more than like 6 beds usually, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
my model is go now let's find the right license type, let's find the right zoning type so I can do the deal that I like to do and essentially just make the math work. So that's kind of where we start. I would say that's really step one. Then your market research is step two. Cities do you want to be in? And a lot of this goes back to, secret shopping, checking out who's your competition, who's doing great in your market. And as you're researching that, you'll definitely find here are cities that I want to be in. These, maybe this area of the metro and this area is not somewhere I want to be just based on demographics and things like that. And so as you're secret shopping, I think there's really two components you need to compare and contrast against. It's your physical product. And for us, we build new construction. We have private rooms. They're very beautiful and luxurious. So we're looking at who of our competition has, a new luxury product. And then the other really important part of it that gets kind of skipped is your actual service. What type of service and who are you serving? Because a lot of times there's a vast difference of the service of, hey, mom is 82 and does not have dementia and just needs a little bit of help here and there versus mom's 96 and incontinent and can't walk any longer and doesn't remember her name and she has a long list of medications and she has behaviors. The difference is massive of how you're taking care of people. And so really honestly, the numbers and the pricing can be very different on those as well. So going and learning what you want to do and where you want to do it, I think is really, really important. And then the third step would be I start really day one with raising money. How do I get people interested in what I love to do? And everyone is interested in this because everyone has a personal story for their own mother or father or grandmother that's like, hey, we went here. Mom had a hard time at end of life, or she went to this facility and it was horrible. And I want to do something different. I want to get on with them because they're trying to make a difference and do something special. So really, I think as you are starting and you're going through these first two steps, step three is literally just like pulling out your phone and just
Right.
documenting your journey. And then you'll have so many people, friends, family, people from other past jobs that you had reach out and like, man, I love your passion for this. I want to make a difference too. I want to hear about, what land did you find and what are you trying to build and all these kind of things. And people will come out and they're like, hey, yeah, I'm interested in that. I want to invest with you. I want to be part of these kind of deals. So I couple that with, going to the banks and putting a whole business plan together. But those are really the first kind of foundational steps,
Man, I like that because I'm up here thinking like, man, maybe I can go ahead and do this.
right? You definitely
Because
can.
you're talking about the zoning thing, and I remember listening to you talk about this before, was actually not push back on the state for the zoning, but actually talk about rezoning or reclassifying that particular space. Can you
Mhm.
talk about that process a little deeper? Because, you know, obviously other shows you talked about it, but I was like, yeah, can we deep dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So zoning is one of the biggest hurdles you have on the front side. And every single city has different zoning types. And so you can't just say, hey, you know what? This city over here said I can do this type of zoning. Let's call it C1. So now I can go to every other city and know that I can do that. It's not the same. It's literally every city is different. And so I like to tell people when you're going to talk to a city, just go to like the 3 or 4 around you just to make sure like this don't put all your eggs in one basket. One city might be difficult, right? But so go to 3 or 4 and I ask this question first is here's what I want to do. I want to build or buy or convert this assisted living. I'm going to have this many beds. It's going to be roughly this size. We're going to focus on, end of life or memory care that sometimes makes a difference. And then from there, I set the stage and say, what type of zonings do I fit into in your city code? Right. And they'll usually give you one or two. Sometimes it'll be commercial. Sometimes it'll be very rarely it's residential, but sometimes it is. And so, okay, I know that I can go now look at land for deals that have that same zoning type, and I can look into those opportunities. That's still a little bit limiting. That's a lot of times not a lot of opportunities, and especially when they say, "Hey, you can go buy land that's commercially zoned." That's a lot of times like 3 or 4 times the price of residential land.
Didn't think about that. Okay.
So my second follow-up question is like, okay, thank you. Now I know what box I fit into. What are the other options that are not necessarily in that box that if I jump through a hoop or did, a variation or, a special use permit or something like that, what hoops can I jump through to get other zoning types that are applicable as well? And so I think this is actually the most practical. Like I've purchased agricultural land multiple times and gone through a special use permit. It was no big deal. It was like 2 months. And I was able to now build assisted livings on what used to be agricultural zone land. And the price for that was substantially like 20% of, here's this other land, next street over that's zoned commercial. So they jack the prices up. So it could be as simple as that. It could be a handful of different things: multifamily zone land, R4 zone land, whatever it is. But I would just start with a bigger pool and ask those questions.
Now, when you say ask them, who is them? Who are we asking?
Yeah, it's a great clarification. So I'm talking specifically about the planning and zoning department at the city or the county or whatever jurisdiction you need to go talk to.
Okay. You talked really big about partnerships.
Mhm.
What partnerships have been like, do you need as your team? Because obviously you got your
Mm.
builders, you got people that, you can pay for that. But as far as the city, how does that city partnership look like? What does that look like?
So the city can be very much in your favor or very much kind of like against you. And when they're against you, they usually don't come out and say it. They just don't say anything. But a lot of times when the city's in your, has your back, you'll have sometimes you'll meet with city council, do all these things. You're like, man, I want to push this through. I love this, all that kind of stuff. So they can really make it restrictive or they can really help you through the process. As far as like another way to look at your question about partners, I really think there's three components to a great team.
Okay.
You have a lot of times the point person, the person that's putting the deal together. And you may call them like the real estate person or the business person. They're the one that's going and meeting with the city. They're looking at land, talking to realtors, getting the pre approval with the bank, kind of putting the deal together, right? That's a very important person that usually kind of starts the deal. Then you also have the money person. The money person is vitally important, right? They're going to come up with the down payment for the loan. They may also need to personally guarantee on the loan. So they may bring one or two components to the deal. They may not at all be involved in the day to day or any of the running of the operation stuff, right? It could be one or two investors. You could do a syndication, but you essentially need a money partner in there as well. The third person or partner is the operations partner. They're the person who has the experience, who can run the day to day, who has the existing relationships in the community to say, here's the home health contracts and the hospice people that are great and all the different relationships that are there. And that person you can again bring onto your team as far as like an equity partner, or that person you can actually hire and not offer equity, just give them a salary and maybe a profit sharing agreement. But I think you definitely need the first two. You definitely need the point person who's going to put the deal together, and you need the money partner. And again, usually the money partner is as an equity stake in the company because that's a part of the requirement for the funding by having a down payment with the bank.
Nice. Yeah, because I was actually researching far as hotels, and usually to get into the hotel industry, you need somebody who at least had some type of hotel experience on the board. Is it the same way when it comes to having assisted living at such a large facility?
Yeah, there's definitely from the lender's perspective much lower risk if you come in with someone on your team with experience. And so myself and my wife, we've been doing this here in Central Texas since 2019. And in the last couple years, we started partnering, joint venturing with teams across the country to build our mansions. And that's one of the big draws to working with us. You'll literally plug and play everything we do. But a lot of it is now we become the experience partner with the banks. And we have four different lenders that have lent to myself and a bunch of our other partners around the country to build these. And now they're coming in and it's much more cookie cutter. The risk is much limited where we have partners that are just normal day-to-day people, right? There may be teachers or a realtor or just a business person, and coming in, they don't have multiple millions in the bank. They don't have experience running an assisted living, but they're part of a team that has that experience behind them. And then they can come in and bring in the experience that they have to be able to really get this going and get a pretty substantial loan size for this.
That sounds awesome. So, I mean, I'm up here thinking about it. Well, the person that could be listening to this right now be like, okay, all right, cool. I know I have my nice little checklist together, but I just
Hmm.
don't have the capital. But you say you got to find somebody that's with the capital.
Hmm.
What is the importance of actually journaling that process to kind of find that one person of like, hey, you know what? I really like what you're doing. I want to go in. What is, I guess, how can I say, like, can you structure a deal where somebody like, hey, I just got $1,000. I want to support your journey, and support your mission, and try to find out like what is the equity in the stake. I'm not sure if I'm asking the right question, but
That's all right. I'll give you kind of a typical deal for what we do. And as you're going to do a project like what we do, it's probably usually between $3 and $4 million project.
okay,
And there's those numbers are total development costs, meaning it's the cost for the land, it's the cost to build the mansion or the building, and it's also the business cost, which includes all the furniture and fixtures, a lot of working capital dollars, and reserve amounts. So those three things are usually between 3 and 4 million. The bank will usually lend 85 or 90%. So it puts you in this range of between 300,000 to maybe 600,000 as a down payment. And so in that range, sometimes a lot of people have friends and family that they know, like, and trust them, and they can come in and fill that gap. And they might put in 100,000, and they might get a couple people to do that. Sometimes you have somebody who's they have retirement funds or something like that. They can come in and put down the majority of that capital. Sometimes people have equity in real property, right? They may have a rental property. They sometimes we have teams that sell those, or they pull
Oh,
out equity, have a HELOC for that to be able to use that as part of the down payment. So there's a handful of different ways to be able to do this. I think the other kind of layer to this is there's really two things you need from the bank, right? You need the money
uh-huh.
to for the down payment, but then you also need to be a strong, borrower and need to be able to personally guarantee that loan. So again, it goes back to it's not just everyone can do this and go raise 300 grand from a friend and family, right? You still need to look good on paper. You can't have bad credit. You can't have recent bankruptcies. You have to have a stable job. They want to see, when I say they, the bank wants to see that during this time of construction and leasing up, when you're not making a profit yet, how are you supporting your family? So a lot of times, husband and wife, or one keeps their job during that transition period. A lot of times, if you just again normal people, but not looking bad on paper, you don't have to be a multimillionaire, but a nice couple who's got some financial reserves and things like that is able to go therefore raise the money for this and be able to do a deal like this.
That is awesome. And because first of all, I have to admire your hair, by the way. I was like, all right, cool. If I were to thin my hair
Appreciate
out,
that. Your hair is cool
can
too. I
make the
like it. Yeah.
I just wanted to shout out for the people who are watching it, who are listening to this side of the house. But one of the things is that, so talk about getting the money, understanding that the bank has the bulk of it, making sure you're financially stable. That's where if you need help with that, listen to prior episodes of the show so we can get your money right so you can jump right into this. And you said about $300 to $400,000 to kind of go all in.
Mhm.
If a person is saying it's like, hey, all right, I got my capital, you know what, I just don't know where to start. I want to come to you. I got my checklist. Do you guys have like a nice, lovely intake form to kind of get somebody who want to take on your process? So say like for me in Maryland, somebody just listen to this in Maryland, be like, hey, I know some land. I can try to work some deals out here.
Yeah. So, for anybody who wants to learn more about what we do, there's a whole bunch of information that I have and videos online. And so, the first place to start is just our website, assistedlivingmansion.com. And then there's a free training tab or free resources, 3 courses there, and it'll literally just kind of walk you through. Here's step by step exactly how to do and go through this. Because most people know there's a problem in the market. They have a passion to help people. They want the financial freedom, but they don't really know much about assisted living or memory care. That can kind of be scary to people. So at least this gives you like a great foundation of here's what the industry is like and how to go about it. And then again, if it's something that's for you, you can book a call with our team. We're happy to talk with you and see, is this the right fit for you? Do you have the experience necessary? All those kind of things.
Yeah. Because I'm actually thinking about like one of my clients, actually, they have like a brother in a whole another state, pretty much across the state, across the United States. And they had to constantly fly over there, but they really hated the service that they were providing their brother. And to the point where they actually had to move them to a whole nother facility where they actually have better communication. Just the communication thing was a big deal and a big deal breaker for a reason why they switched out. I mean, I'm not sure how much time you have, but can you just talk about how did you pick your doctors and pick your team to kind of how to run the mansions while you're not there?
Yeah, that's honestly the most difficult part of the business, right? Like it's relatively easier to go through and hire a contractor and build this, hire the architect, all those kind of things. Really the challenging part is people, right? In any business, it's usually people. And our business is 24/7, 365. So literally from an hours perspective, it's almost 3 times the amount of hours that of a normal business, right? And you never close. So getting your people together is the most important thing to be successful. And I kind of want to stress that point a little bit because honestly, what we do is we sell love. That's really what it is. Like we are successful because we have a great reputation in our community, because we have amazing people that take care of our grandmas and grandpas. And most of our competition, they don't pour into their people. They don't train. They don't fire the people that cut corners. And so that is by far the most important. Even you can have you can have an outdated building. If you have great people that provide amazing care, man, you can do very well. So this is again what I teach the people that we partner with is usually that first 6 to 12 months you're starting, and you as the owner I think should know every aspect of your business. So you hire somebody usually from big corporate, and you come in and they take the lead. We have systems and processes for everything, but they're going to come in and take the lead with the existing relationships in the community, and then you as the owner are learning alongside them really that first 6 months or so, and then just solving the problems, systematizing everything, those kind of things, building your culture. And I feel like a lot of times, like you as the owner become kind of that backup manager during this time. You're learning everything, you're getting in there. And then from there, once you're stabilized, and it may be, between, year one sometime, you hire your best caregiver or you promote them to assistant manager, and you really pull yourself back out of the day to day so that now you can sit really in the owner or the CEO seat and just kind of manage the business. But you have been in the trenches, right? You know how difficult it is to work an overnight shift, or what happens when somebody calls in sick and you got to come fill it. Like you relate to your manager, those kind of things. And I think that's super, super important. So
Okay.
honestly, this things that our staff do is not technically difficult. You don't need to go to college for it or anything like that. You don't even need to be a nurse or a CNA. That is different state by state, but most places you don't need a CNA. It's just like being a mom. And so it's a ton of patience, it's a ton of love and kindness. And so really just hiring the right people, removing the ones that kind of have bad attitudes, and just, building on your team and your cultures is the core of this.
Are you okay talking about just rough numbers right quick so people can think about, okay, so when they talk about like what is the monthly expenses, the capex expenses, and so forth?
Sure. So I'll kind of give you a typical deal for what we do. And our model is we build 16 beds, and they're very beautiful, and we provide end of life care and memory care. So it's usually on the more expensive side. And our niche is we want to really go and match who's the most expensive in our market and then beat them. And so a lot of times it's big corporate that comes in, they build a 4-story building, and they have 3 levels of independent living, they have 60, rooms of assisted living, and then they have like kind of their lockdown 20 beds of memory care. What is that price for end of life and memory care is usually what we're trying to match. And then we're just way better than them. So it makes it really, really easy to make sales because we have just 16 grandmas and grandpas and one chef to them. We have a house doctor, we have a nurse that comes in. And takes care of all these people. And those medical people are not on our payroll. They're outside services that insurance covers. So that makes it very easy from that perspective. So I think typically what we see around the country is usually somewhere in the like $8,000 range up to, I'd say 8 to 10 is most common. Again, you're in the Northeast, it's probably 10 to 12 in that area of the country for end of life and memory care. And so, a lot of times if you have 16 residents, 16 grandmas, and you're charging again that like 8 to 10 kind of range, a lot of times we're looking at gross rents around 130,000. And then you subtract from there, right? Your mortgage, at least if you're building currently right now, and interest rates right now is probably about 30,000. So you back that off. Your staffing is usually somewhere between 45 to 50,000. You back that off. Your operating expenses are usually in the like 18 to $20,000 range. And you back that off. And I didn't remember all those numbers and do it in my
That's
head, but
okay.
it's somewhere
It's rough
usually like you
numbers.
can
Yeah,
make
yeah.
very strong numbers. A lot of times our deals and our partners, they're netting, including their investor team, close to or above $500,000 a month to run this operations company.
Wow. Okay. And then obviously you take a profit from that. That is okay. That's a lot of numbers right there. And goes to show like, just with a little bit of customer service can really set you above the lowest that's out there. Really
Hmm.
set you apart in that process. So this is coming to the third segment of the show, which is talking about the future. So where do you see this assisted living going at in the future? Do you really think everybody's going to shift to your type of model, or is there still going to be those little mom and pops from time to time?
They'll definitely be mostly the bigs and a lot of the small. I am pioneering this middle-sized model of the 16-bed memory care mansions, and we have partnerships in 19 different states now. And it's getting really popular. So my goal is to push this into all the states. There's nothing stating we can't do 16 bed in every single state. And honestly, we provide the best care because it's big corporate run. It's not some guys in some boardroom in another state, right? It's usually husband and wife team, two partners there that want to make a difference, that are actually putting their own family in it, that are there just with great heart and great intentions and are making amazing money, but are making a difference locally in their community. And so I really love supporting the small business aspect of this and really giving a plug and play model for normal middle class people who don't have a ton of opportunity to say, okay, well, here's how I get out of the rat race. I can get one and done deal. Like we can start this deal, build it in year one, stabilize it in year two. By year three, I'm pretty passive in this with very, very strong returns, cash flow wise, and then multiple millions in equity on the real estate side. And that's my retirement play. I'm going to run this for X amount of years and then I'll 1031 or I'll sell or something. And
Or live in it.
you're
I
really
mean,
set off. Hand it off to your kids and you can
right.
move in.
There you go. Well, this is one small question, which is how do people pay for this? Like, do they just use like their retirement accounts or something like that?
Yeah, the model that we have is all private pay. And so I guess in this country, it's very much kind of polarized. You have private pay models that can be great, but also could be not great. A lot of them are not very great either. But then you have, the Medicaid, Medicare side, government funded on the other side, which is usually not great options. And so it goes back to financially preparing early, right? And a lot of times it's a lot of the baby boomer generation is very high in equity. They have a lot of house equity. And so most of the times it's them selling mom or dad's house. They now have a financial POA of usually the daughter by that time, and then they're managing this. And they have hopefully, many years to go through, but it's not cheap. It's 24/7. Labor's expensive, everything's expensive. And so I would say maybe 2/3, 75% of our residents, the grandmas and grandpas, they are paying from their funds. There are definitely people who run out of funds. And then a lot of times it's the families, it's the children that are going and splitting those funds for mom. And usually you'll I call it the end of life funnel. Like you'll start in the apartment, right? And
Right.
it's like $2,500 a month, right? And
Yep.
that's fine. And then mom declines more, then you move to the assisted living, and then maybe that's 5 or 6 grand. And then she declines more. Now she becomes incontinent or something else happens. She starts losing her memory. Because you don't just jump straight to end of life memory care. You kind of go through the funnel. You know how horrible a lot of the places are. And it's a lot of times it's like, I will spend an extra $1,000 over here because this place has a great reputation and they're doing it legit, over saving the money over here because mom's getting bed sores and she's neglected and she sits in the dark all day and she's depressed. And the quality of life on a lot of those places are horrid. And so I really like pioneering this where, husband and wife combos, mom and pop people can come in and make a difference. And there are plenty of people who have the equity to afford this kind of stuff.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that breakdown. Is there anything you want to leave the people with before we dive into the final four questions?
I think that there's waves of business opportunities throughout life. And I was in real estate for about 12 years, and I always felt like I was fighting against the tide. As I moved a few years ago into end of life care, I feel like I'm swimming downriver, right? And so I say this as an analogy for anyone who is looking into this kind of opportunity. Baby boomers are literally just starting. They're just hitting that age. We're good for the next 20 years. And so the opportunity is there to jump in and get into the space and be excellent and do something that makes a difference because it's right there. It's the opportunity is now.
But love it. All right, Brett, you ready for the final four?
All right, let's do it.
Alrighty. So for those of you who are new to the show, the final four questions are the final four questions where we actually do a little deeper dive into understanding their financial thoughts around finances. So let's see. Question 1. What does wealth mean to you?
Wealth. I think wealth equals choices. The more wealth you have, the more you have the choice to fire your boss, to quit, to be with your children every single day. I mean, we're talking about pulling our kids out of school, buying or hiring our own private teacher to be able to travel with our kids. Like that's real freedom there.
Like that. Number 2. What was your worst money mistake?
I lost 75,000 on a real estate deal once, and it really came back to it was a bad deal and I kept trying to force it. And the longer I forced it, the more money I lost. So I had to literally just cut my losses and say, okay, here, I know I'm going to lose money. Let's just be done with it. And so I think, just trying to force it has been a lesson for me.
Right. Well, I might have to have you back on just talk about that real estate deal.
Yeah.
Number 3, is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
Yes. Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki is a foundational book for so many people. It was so foundational for me because it was like probably the first book that I read, and I was like literally just beginning, and it just expanded my mindset so much and really just got me excited about this. So I think it's a fantastic, kind of if you're new to this kind of thing about getting into entrepreneurship and building wealth, it was something that was very foundational, inspiring for me.
Yeah, it's been very popular on this since I've been
Yeah.
doing this show. Number 4, what is your favorite dish to make?
Probably steaks. My girls, I have 2 daughters, they love filet. That's all they want me to cook is filet and veggies. Just grill it up, right? So that's a common thing we cook at our house.
That's awesome. And the very last question of the show, which is where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I have a podcast you can listen to. It's Assisted Living Investing and all the different podcast apps. My YouTube is my full name. You can check out lots of different stuff there on assisted living investing, raising money, all those kind of things. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if you really want to learn more about this niche, tons of free resources on the website, assistedlivingmansion.com. Learn all of that kind of stuff there. There's no cost. And then if you really want to know more about this, if this is the right opportunity for you, you can connect with our team. There's a book a call button there. We're happy to see and chat with you about, if this is the right opportunity.
Man, thank you so much, Brett. This has been amazing. Had a great time learning about this, learning ins and outs about it, because I've had people come on about assisted living, but you doing the thing from the ground up, and that's amazing. And
Yeah.
not too many people actually can say that you're doing it from soup to nuts, in the end, not just from building it, but actually running it to now managing it, and now not even syndicating it, but actually disseminating it across the United States. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad to be able to share it. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody who was listening. Y'all have a great day. We're out. Peace.
Bye.